We're going to have one more person share the success strategy with us. This person is very different from the earlier two people. Okay, her name is Mona Fakih Masarat, and unlike the earlier two gentlemen, she was not born into families. She did not inherit any business. Nikhil inherited. Bharat continued his father's business before he decided to branch on his own. Another interesting thing about Mona is that she's from a small town called Bhiwandi. Another unique thing about Mona is the fact that she was into textile design and modeling. I can't imagine two things which are so distant from financial services. How can anyone leave those businesses and be here in this boring business? But Mona is here with us. She's taken this plunge, and I'm inviting her to be here. Another interesting thing about Mona is the fact that her career, both professionally earlier and now, has been through ups and downs. I find this very fascinating about Mona's career. So let's have a big round of applause for Mona. Okay, Mona, tell us a little more about yourself.
So like you said, that I truly feel that I'm very different from the first two speakers. I clearly do not know what I'm going to speak here, but often I would find myself a misfit in this industry. But having said that, I cannot be grateful enough that I happened to be in this industry. It was just chance. So I'm from a place called Bhiwandi, which is a very small town. I grew up in a Muslim, very conservative, I would not say conservative, religious, but very...
Perhaps orthodox ideas about what a woman should do?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, we were in that religious upbringing, we were allowed to think for ourselves, remaining conservative. I don't know how to explain that. That's like a dichotomy. And then I came to Bombay to study, Sophia College. I did my college in Sophia. And I studied fashion and textiles, and my family business was textiles, power looms, which is very normal for any person who comes from Bhiwandi. So yeah, that is it. And in Sophia College, I was exposed to completely different, I was exposed to a different lifestyle. Different people. But having said that though I came from a small town, I kind of aligned very well with the with the big city. Am I making sense?
Yeah. Carry on. And then you were into textile design, and then you were in modeling. How did that happen, and how did the shift to the advisory profession happen?
Right. I modeled mainly because I just wanted some pocket money to sustain in Bombay. My family was very against it. So while I was very taken in by glamour, it never became my career. While I was, there was a place called, it is still there, Bombay Textile Research Association. So United Nations had gifted this software package which was called, it was a designing package. I was chosen over there to train on that software. And there was this American man who would visit us representing United Nations. So he saw some potential in me which he felt that I was meant for the private sector. And I got this opening at a place called, I don't know how many people are familiar with textiles, Export House. His name was Naveen Roy Kapoor, very big production export house, brother to Burlington's. And I started working over there. I worked there for a couple of years. Then I moved on to another place. While I was working over there, I was designing for places like Macy's, Contempo, if you're familiar with fashion and that kind of stuff. And at that point, one day, I got a call from home that my father had a stroke. I had to quit. I just quit overnight. We didn't have very good hospitals in Bhiwandi. He was brought to Bombay. So overnight, my life changed. I quit working. I went back home to Bhiwandi to stay with my mother because she'd never stayed alone. And after a point, I realized that I did not belong to Bhiwandi in my mind. I had to be in the big city. So during that transition, that is when I started modeling. And at that time, I got this offer that would you like to work for a company called Batliwala and Karani. So Batliwala and Karani was tying up with James Capel, which is HSBC Securities. And I went for the interview, and for some reason, I was told that you just have to take appointments, and that is all. You'll make like 10,000, which was enough to sustain for me in the hostel in Bombay. And I was chosen at the interview. I do not know why, what. Obviously, they must have seen some potential, and that's where actually my journey in financial markets started.
Okay. But then how did you choose to become independent on your own?
Okay, so what happened by 1990, this was in 95 that I got my break in Batliwala and, James Capel, Batliwala and Karani. 98 saw the very well-known, the Malaysian crisis. And by then I had transitioned to equity sales department. Obviously I picked up very, very quickly, and, but not enough because I did not have the background of an MBA. So there was always a feeling of inadequacy, which somehow translated by the CEO putting me into a department which did not gel with me. So it was a very soft way of saying that if you want to leave, you could leave. So basically it was a layoff, very well, politely said. And I think that's the time when I left. And about a year or so of a lot of introspection, I decided that I had to do something, and that's when I tied up with Prudential ICICI, and I started my journey, my foray in being an entrepreneur, and started freelancing. And 2 years of freelancing, and very good 8 months. Like I did some mind-boggling equity numbers.
What are these numbers?
Like I think at that time in 98, I did like 50 crores of equity.
50 crores of equity in 8 months.
Quickly. So it was like.
So what happened? How did you manage this?
Well, I just started with, I had modeled for one of my, diamond merchant. I called him up. I said, this is what I've started, and I'd like to come and show you what investment opportunities exist in the market, so and so. And I happened to clinch the deal. My first equity check was of 25 lakhs. In those days, 25 lakhs was serious money. And I think...
It's serious money even now.
No, but I'm just saying 25 lakhs then.
Okay.
And I would quite disagree with Nikhil that upfront doesn't mean nothing. It meant a lot.
Okay.
So it was... So I think one thing led to another, and I was very focused. I would drop like names that I can approach, and I would just call them and I'd say that, this is what I'm started doing. I'd like to meet you. And I have to say one of the people that I learned a lot about sales was Pankaj Razdan. He came for one of the my first meetings, and he had trained me how to sell, and I was good at kind of picking up things from experts. So I think that was my ability that translated into sales.
Okay. And then when did you decide to branch out completely on your own? And because this was a tied agency kind of a thing with ICICI. Right.
So by 2000, I started, actually I didn't feel it. I was just I was going through the motions. I was completely actually agnostic to even to my success. But one of my cousins who would often, guide me, he said that it's time you started a company, and I did not know how to run companies. But I did feel one thing that I was not doing justice to my clients by just selling Prudential to them. So I said it was time that I had to float a company where I could be able to sell other products. So I think that was where my company, which is Allegiance Advisors, was given birth.
Okay. Then how have you grown your business since then? How did you go about acquiring clients?
I think socially, I was pretty networked, I would say. I mean, when I introspect about my success or failures, one of the things that I realized about myself that I was socially connected. So I would make a list of people that I needed to connect, or ask my friends, okay, give me references, introduce me to people. So I think it was purely references. And I would just follow on that. and most of the time it would translate into sales. Yeah.
Okay. Now, one of the things which is unique about Mona's business is that she focuses largely on high net worth individuals, right? Very successful professionals and a bunch of celebrities, right? Now, many in the audience would like to know from you, how are these clients different from your typical retail client? How are celebrities different from other clients?
I think one of the things that I would feel differentiates a celebrity or what the celebrity wants of an IFA is the ability for an IFA to not feel intimidated. They do not want you to be intimidated by them. They want you to feel like you're an equal. They may want you to give the respect that they deserve because of the success that they have achieved. But they want you to feel, that, they're dealing with somebody who's confident, and very sincere, and integrity matters a lot. I mean, I think that's what I would like to say.
Okay. And with successful professionals, how are they different from your retail clients?
Actually, successful professionals are far easier. Okay. Somehow, HNIs and celebrities, they don't like to see negatives too much. Okay. So successful professionals, they're a lot more aware. They're not so insulated from reality, so to speak. Celebrities do not know so much about what is really happening. I mean, I won't put that like as a generalization, but that's my experience.
So they're in kind of a cocoon,
that's
relatively
right. Relatively cocoon.
Not exposed to some of these things. Right. So how does that pose a challenge to you?
I think then what makes them feel comfortable, even that they have to believe that what you're saying is in their best interest, and that you really truly care for them. Like Nikhil said, that you really have to care for them. I think that matters. That somehow translates into.
Okay. How do you stay connected with these clients? How do you gain their loyalty?
There are two ways. One of the standard things that we do is every month we have, by the beginning of a month, we send the portfolio by email, and very frequently, each client, it's different. We stay connected by phone. I would either call them. Some of them are very high flyers, so they travel a lot, and they're not so accessible, so stay connected by net or phone. And it just so happens that I get, for some reason, maybe it's a personality thing, I become a part of their family. So if I'm not able to meet let's just the husband is not there, I can connect with the wife, but some way or the other you stay connected. So they have to feel that you're really looking after the money.
Okay. Now, Mona, there have been many significant changes, regulatory changes. How has that impacted, particularly the introduction of direct plans? How has it impacted you?
Yeah, actually the direct has been extremely, I would say, very impactful for my business model, because what happened is, although I started with focusing on HNIs, I did happen to have certain corporates, and when the entry load ban happened, so we didn't feel the impact as much because we had a lot of clients, but our margins shrunk. So at that time we transitioned on to focusing on corporates and institutions to make up for the lack of margin, so numbers would make up. But with the direct, it was like that. Like I started seeing transition of funds, my AUMs really deplete. So it's been very challenging, but the positive that I would like to take from that, it has kind of compelled me to get out of my own complacency and reassess my own business model. And now to think on lines that I have to be, my clientele should be in a way that I should be agnostic to these ups and downs. So it has helped me, I would think.
So, but how are you planning to do that? How are you trying to insulate yourself from such changes in the future?
So I have realized that you need to have X number of clients of certain size that will definitely keep the fires burning. You build, you make money. It is like a natural progression, but focus on more number of clients and get deeper into the existing clients' kitty, basically. How does that happen? Is by keeping in touch with them very regularly.
Okay. Now, why do you think there are very few women advisors? You know, even in this audience, not even 10% of the audience is women.
Honestly, I really don't know, but I think one of the things is that financial markets are perhaps more, they're more seen as numbers industry, and women perhaps are not really inclined towards numbers. They might like to spend, but they don't want to look at numbers as, their main business. Or I can't really tell what is the reason. Yeah.
Okay. What are your future plans now?
My future plan, this year plan is to be so focused on my existing business and to just grow our assets this year particularly, because whoever invests in these markets will remain very loyal and very happy with us. We want ultimately our clients to be happy.
Great, great. Any piece of advice for the audience here?
I mean, the audience is very wise. They don't need advices from us. But however, I like to share one of the things which I am a believer. Like I may have mentioned to you in our interaction, that we all have this consciousness. So there is something called abundance consciousness, and there's a consciousness of lack and poverty. So when we focus on this abundance, even if we may not see it in the near future, we actually believe that this is how we will be, and that is how you end up manifesting. This is something like many books have been written lately, because people are discovering more and more there's a correlation to our subconscious beliefs manifesting into our reality. So I would think just stay abundant. Even if when you're feeling fearful, which I felt last year, is just believe that there are possibilities and you can almost sense it. So almost like you're bringing in the future of possibilities into your now. So that keeps your morale very high. So that's what I have to say.
You wanted to, Deepak? Yeah, sure.
Hi, Mona. Forgive me if this question sounds a little sexist, but just listen me out. Yes. Did being a model or being a 25-year-old beautiful something making you approach a client and comparing it with a normal IFA, agent, distributor who's walked out into somebody's office sweating, wiping his face, did that give you an advantage in getting a business?
So if you were to ask me, do I like walking next to George Clooney or an ordinary man, I prefer George Clooney. So I don't think it would be very different for men. But having said that, but I didn't get money when the markets were down.
Nobody got that. Nobody got that.
So that answers your question.
Did you have an advantage which a normal person did not have?
I think it's a question best answered by her clients.
Yeah, I think my clients will be the best.
So we hardly know that. Anyway, thank you, Mona.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
much. And can I invite Rajesh? One of the qualities that I've liked most about Mona is her resilience. Okay, it is not easy to see your AUM shrink as sharply as she's done and still be brave about it and still continue to slog on. So,
thanks, Prem.